The shuttle dropped through the docking bay doors like a brick thrown from a rooftop. Ambassador Elena Vasquez clutched her harness while the pilot wrestled with controls that wouldn't quite sync with the station's bizarre gravity. Half a century, 5 decades of broadcasting messages into empty space, and this welcome felt more like a warning. The station stretched beyond anything Elena could wrap her mind around. It circled a massive blue star in what the Council labeled neutral territory, though she figured nothing out here was really neutral these days. Ships of every imaginable shape crowded the docking ports. Some looked like they'd been grown instead of assembled. Others gleamed like sculptures carved from pure crystal. Down on the lowest tier sat the UNS Defiant, humanity's escort ship, all sharp edges and brutal angles compared to the flowing designs around it, a sledgehammer in a gallery of glass art. Her aide James spoke quietly behind her. "Ambassador, they've cleared us to exit." He wasn't even 30 yet, and this marked his first mission beyond Earth. His fingers trembled slightly while gathering the data tablets holding humanity's presentation. Elena rose and straightened her naval whites. She'd picked the uniform deliberately over civilian dress. Let them see that humans understood order and discipline. "Listen carefully," she told her 5-person team. "We're here to watch as much as they're watching us. Capture everything your implants can record." The airlock hissed open way too loud. The bay beyond soared upward at least 50 meters. The air carried an odd scent, like electricity mixed with flowers she couldn't name. The temperature felt just right. Humidity perfectly balanced. At least they'd studied human comfort zones. 7 aliens waited in formation. None were human. The lead figure towered nearly 3 meters tall, covered in scales that shifted from green to blue depending on the angle of light. Vertical slits for eyes, and when its mouth opened, Elena glimpsed rows of pointed teeth. "Welcome, representatives of humanity." The translator in Elena's ear converted the hisses and clicks into smooth English. "I am Overlord Zexthar, speaker for the Galactic Council. We have examined your petition for membership." Something in his tone landed between dismissal and contempt, like a professor addressing the slowest student in class. Elena kept her voice level. "Thank you, Overlord Zexthar. Humanity is honored to finally receive your attention. We're eager to understand our place in this community." Zexthar's head tilted sideways. "Yes, your place. That's precisely what we'll determine." He turned without waiting and strode toward a corridor branching off the bay. The other aliens fell in step. Elena's team had no option but to follow. The passages ran wide and tall, clearly built to handle vastly different body types. They passed countless aliens conducting their business. Some walked on 2 legs, others on 4 or 6. One seemed to drift inside a bubble of gel contained by some kind of suit. Nobody spared the human delegation a glance. "Your species achieved faster-than-light capability roughly 50 Earth years ago," Zexthar remarked over his shoulder while walking, "using what you term a fusion drive to power a basic gravity manipulation engine. Very conventional." James bristled, but Elena touched his arm gently. "Not the right moment. Let them keep talking." "We've made significant improvements since those early days," Elena offered. "Our current drives perform efficiently and reliably." Zexthar's voice carried definite amusement. "Reliable, certainly. You've surveyed 17 star systems across 5 decades. The Vraxians mapped 17 systems in their first 3 years with FTL. Quite a difference." They entered an enormous circular chamber with seats climbing in rings around a central platform. Hundreds, maybe thousands of seats, though only a third held occupants. Holographic screens floated everywhere showing information Elena couldn't immediately parse. Zexthar led them to the platform's center. "Remain here. The council will address you momentarily." The delegation clustered tight while Zexthar climbed to a seat in the second ring directly facing them. Other council members started paying attention, various appendages that might be eyes turning their direction. A clear chime rang out. Zexthar rose to his feet. "The council acknowledges the species called humanity, native to the planet Earth in the Sol system. They have requested membership and recognition. Our evaluation committee has finished its review." A hologram materialized overhead showing Earth spinning slowly. Data scrolled beside it in multiple languages. Elena's implant translated the important parts. Population, 8 billion. Technology level Tier 7. Military capability, minimal. Notable achievements, none recorded. Tier 7. Elena's stomach dropped. She'd done the homework. The council used 8 tiers to classify civilizations. Tier 1 represented the ancient founders. Tier 8 meant pre-spaceflight. Tier 7 put humanity barely above primitives who'd never left their home planets. The council has decided that humanity may receive limited membership status. Zexthar continued. "You will be assigned a territorial zone not exceeding 15 light-years from your home system. Colonizing systems claimed by other species is forbidden. Access to council databases above level 3 is restricted. And critically, you must comply with the Technology Treaty." "Technology Treaty?" Elena asked, maintaining careful control over her voice. Another council member stood, insectoid with 4 arms and compound eyes. The technology treaty prevents lower-tier species from developing or deploying weapons and technologies they lack the cultural maturity to handle responsibly. You will submit your current military inventory for inspection. Certain technologies will be banned. James whispered urgently, "They're going to strip us of our defenses." Elena didn't respond to him. Instead, she addressed the council. "May I ask which specific technologies would be forbidden?" Zexthar's mouth curved in what looked like a smile. "Your kinetic weapons, for example. Railguns, missiles, projectile firearms. These are primitive and hazardous. You will adopt standard plasma-based weaponry under council guidance. Our kinetic weapons are primitive." Elena felt anger flash hot but pushed it down. "Yet these are what we've developed and perfected across centuries. Precisely why they require replacement," the insectoid member responded. "You cling to outdated technologies because you know nothing else. We will provide proper education. Perhaps in a century or two you might advance to Tier 6 status." Sounds that Elena's translator registered as laughter rippled through the chamber. Different species, different noises, but the meaning stayed universal. They were being mocked. Another council member rose, this one covered in what resembled feathers. "If I may offer a counterpoint, I believe we're being unnecessarily harsh. Humanity's chemical propulsion systems, while dated, demonstrate genuine creativity. Their fusion reactors show remarkable stability for such a young species. We should offer encouragement. Encourage them to remain in their small corner where they cannot create problems," Zexthar said dismissively. "The Vraxian Empire has already voiced concerns about human colonization attempts in the Kelvar region. The Kelvar region shows as unclaimed space on every navigation chart we've obtained. Unclaimed by council species, perhaps," Zexthar replied. "But the Vraxians maintain historical claims extending back 3,000 years. You could not have known this naturally, lacking access to comprehensive historical databases. This exemplifies why Tier 7 species require supervision." The meeting dragged on for another 2 hours. Elena and her team received a document spanning hundreds of pages filled with restrictions, requirements, and obligations. They had 72 hours to review and accept the terms. Refusal, Zexthar made abundantly clear, would mean humanity being declared a rogue species, isolated from all council contact and trade. When finally dismissed, Elena led her team back through the corridors in silence. Only after they were sealed inside their shuttle with engines warming did she allow herself to speak. Impressions? Sarah, her chief of staff, activated her data pad. "They're technologically advanced, but not as dramatically as I anticipated. Most of what they possess represents refinement of existing technologies rather than revolutionary breakthroughs. Their energy shields are impressive, but they're built on principles we already grasp. Their weapons, all energy-based from what we observed. Plasma cannons, particle beams, some type of exotic matter disruptors. No kinetic weapons whatsoever." Sarah paused. "Ambassador, I think they genuinely don't comprehend the advantages of kinetic weapons. Look at their shield technology. It's entirely optimized for deflecting energy attacks." Elena nodded slowly. She'd noticed the same pattern. They developed energy shields early, so they never bothered with kinetic defenses. Once everyone has energy shields, everyone develops energy weapons to pierce them. It's an arms race that locked them onto one specific technological path. While we took the difficult road, James added, no shields, so we had to perfect armor, point defense, evasive maneuvers. We made kinetic weapons increasingly efficient because we had no alternative. Elena watched through the viewport as the shuttle lifted off. The council station shrank behind them. "Contact Captain Chen on the Defiant. I want a complete strategic briefing in 6 hours, and I want our assessment team analyzing every scan we captured of those council ships." "You think conflict is inevitable?" Sarah asked quietly. "I think," Elena said slowly, "that the council is about to discover that primitive doesn't equal weak and crude doesn't mean ineffective." She pulled up the document they'd been given, scrolling through endless pages of restrictions. "They want to dictate our weapons, our destinations, our defenses. They assume we'll submit because we're desperate to join their club. Aren't we?" James asked. Elena smiled without warmth. 50 years ago, maybe, but we've learned tremendously in 50 years. We've mapped dozens of systems, established colonies, built a fleet. We accomplished all of that without their help, without their permission. We sent them messages requesting to join their council, not begging for survival. The Defiant came into view, suspended in space like a steel blade. It looked ugly compared to the graceful alien vessels, all hard angles and armor plates. But Elena looked at it and felt fierce pride. Humanity had constructed that ship with their own hands, using their own technology, refined through centuries of conflict and competition. "Send a message to Earth," Elena ordered. "Encrypted, highest priority. Inform them the council has made their offer, and inform them we're going to need to revise our negotiating stance." "What should the revision state?" Sarah asked. Elena thought about Zaxthar's condescending tone, the council members' laughter, the casual dismissal of human accomplishments. She thought about the 15 light-year restriction, the technology prohibitions, the assumption that humanity would simply accept whatever terms were imposed. Tell them, she said, that humanity doesn't negotiate from our knees anymore. If the Council wants our cooperation, they'll offer us respect. If they want our submission, they can attempt to take it. The shuttle docked with the Defiant 10 minutes later. Captain Marcus Chen waited in the bay, his weathered face expressionless as Elena disembarked. Difficult meeting. Informative meeting, Elena replied. I learned exactly what the Council thinks of us. Now we need to educate them on what we actually are. Chen nodded once. I've been analyzing their ship configurations during your absence. Their shields are impressive, but I've identified some intriguing vulnerabilities. Show me everything, Elena said. We have 72 hours before they expect our response. Let's ensure we know precisely what we're saying yes or no to. Walking toward the briefing room, Elena allowed herself one moment of uncertainty. Was she genuinely considering defying a galactic government that had existed for thousands of years? Was she risking humanity's future on wounded pride? But then she remembered Zaxthar's smile, the casual way he dismissed human technology, the assumption that they would simply obey. No, this wasn't about pride. This was about something far more fundamental. Humanity had earned its place among the stars. They just had to make the Council understand that truth. 3 months had passed since humanity's formal introduction to the Galactic Council, and tensions had only intensified. Earth had accepted the Council's terms, but with substantial amendments still under negotiation. The biggest source of contention remained the Kelvar region. Kelvar Station was a modest mining colony built on an asteroid in a system roughly 23 light-years from Earth. Technically beyond humanity's assigned 15 light-year zone, but the humans had surveyed and claimed it before the Council's restrictions took effect. 200 miners and their families called it home now, extracting rare elements crucial for quantum computer manufacturing. Captain Marcus Chen stood on the bridge of the UNS Defiant, watching the tactical display with mounting concern. 3 Vraxian warships had just entered the system, and their trajectory made their intentions unmistakable. They were heading straight for the asteroid. Communications from the lead Vraxian vessel, Lieutenant Barnes reported from the comm station. They're broadcasting on all frequencies. Put it through, Chen ordered. The voice came through harsh and guttural, even with translation software smoothing it. Attention, human trespassers. This system belongs to the Vraxian Empire by ancient right. You have violated Council law by establishing unauthorized settlements in claimed territory. You have 1 standard hour to evacuate, or you will be removed by force. Chen pulled up files on Vraxian forces. They were a Tier 3 civilization, ranking 4 levels above humanity in the Council's classification system. Their ships outmassed the Defiant, covered in energy shield generators glowing faint blue. Plasma cannon arrays lined their hulls. On paper, each Vraxian ship could probably handle 3 human vessels and prevail. Sir, incoming transmission from Kelvar Station, Barnes said. It's Governor Mitchell. The screen switched to show a middle-aged woman with graying hair and dirt-stained coveralls. Behind her, Chen could see the colony's control center with worried personnel at their stations. Captain Chen, thank God, Mitchell said. We just received the Vraxian ultimatum. There's no way we can evacuate 200 people in 1 hour, and even if we could, we're not leaving. We followed every proper survey protocol. This system was unclaimed. I know, Governor, Chen replied. We're already moving to intercept. The Arlington and the Mumbai are 2 hours out. We'll handle this. Captain, those are Vraxian warships. Everyone knows their military capabilities. You can't. Governor Mitchell, Chen interrupted gently. Trust me. We've been preparing for this possibility. Just keep your people calm and ready for emergency shelter protocols. Defiant out. He turned to his tactical officer. Commander Okonkwo, status on our weapon systems. Commander Okonkwo pulled up a holographic display. All 6 railgun batteries charged and ready. Point defense systems online. Missile tubes loaded with kinetic penetrators. We're ready, sir. But I have to point out that we're outnumbered and supposedly outgunned. Supposedly, Chen repeated with a slight smile. Lieutenant Barnes, open a channel to the Vraxian ships. A face appeared on screen that looked vaguely reptilian with amber eyes and a crest of bone plates along the skull. This was Commander Vrath, according to the data overlay. I am Captain Marcus Chen of the United Nations ship Defiant. This system was properly surveyed and claimed by human colonists according to established interstellar law. Your claim of ancient rights was never filed with any recognized authority. Withdraw your ships immediately. Vrath's mouth opened in what the translator interpreted as laughter. Ancient rights predate your species' spaceflight by millennia, human. They require no filing, and you dare threaten us. Your primitive ship against 3 Vraxian warships. This is amusing. I'm giving you one warning, Chen said, his voice level and calm. Leave this system within 1 hour, or face the consequences. We have energy shields that can withstand plasma bombardment for hours, Vrath said. What can your kinetic toys possibly do to us? Our intelligence reports say your weapons fire metal slugs. Slugs like the primitive weapons of species still in their industrial age. This is the problem with Tier 7 civilizations. You do not understand modern warfare. 1 hour, Chen repeated and cut the connection. Sir, Council observers just jumped into the system, Barnes reported. One ship, unarmed. They're taking position at safe distance. Chen nodded. The Council had sent observers to many of these disputed situations lately, watching to see how humanity would handle itself when pushed. This would be a test, he knew, not just for humanity, but for the Council's assumptions about human capabilities. Commander Okonkwo, target solutions on all 3 Vraxian ships. I want overlapping fields of fire. Targeting solutions locked, Okonkwo confirmed. Sir, their shields are active. Energy readings are off the scale. Those shields could probably absorb every weapon we have. Every weapon they expect us to have, Chen corrected. Helm, bring us about. Combat speed. Let's show them what Tier 7 engineering looks like. The Defiant began to move, its fusion engines pushing it toward the Vraxian formation. On the tactical display, the 3 enemy ships maintained their position, confident in their superiority. They had positioned themselves in a standard Council battle formation, overlapping their shield coverage for maximum protection. They're not even taking evasive positions, Okonkwo observed. They think we're no threat at all. Good, Chen said. Maintain course. Charge the railguns to maximum. I want full power to all 6 batteries. Throughout the ship, the railgun systems came fully online. Each battery contained magnetic accelerators stretching nearly 50 meters along the Defiant's spine and ventral surfaces. The ammunition was straightforward. Tungsten carbide slugs, each weighing 10 kilograms, shaped for optimal penetration. No explosives, no exotic materials, just dense metal accelerated to enormous velocities. Sir, the Arlington and Mumbai are requesting orders, Barnes said. They'll be in range in 90 minutes. Tell them to maintain course but stay out of engagement range. They're to observe only unless I give direct orders. Sir, are you sure? 3 against 1 is exactly the odds I want, Chen finished. This needs to be unmistakable. No room for the Council to claim we won through numbers or luck. The hour ticked down. The Vraxian ships didn't move. On the colony, Governor Mitchell had ordered everyone into the reinforced shelters, but Chen knew they were watching. Everyone was watching. This would be the first real test of human military capability against a Council species. With 5 minutes remaining, Vroth's face appeared on screen again, uninvited. This is your final chance, human. Withdraw your ship and evacuate the colony. The Vraxian Empire is being generous by offering this opportunity. Do not force us to destroy you. Chen looked at him for a long moment. Target lock confirmed on your vessels, Commander Vroth. You have 3 minutes to withdraw. Target lock. Vroth's crest rose in what might have been anger or amusement. Our shields will disperse any energy weapons you possess. And your kinetic weapons, they are useless against modern shielding technology. The Vraxian Empire mastered shield theory 2,000 years ago. 2 minutes, Chen said calmly. Vroth made a dismissive gesture. Very well. When we have reduced your ship to debris, perhaps the Council will finally force your species to accept your proper place. Vroth out. The connection cut. Chen waited, watching the countdown timer. 60 seconds. 30. 10. All batteries fire on my mark, he said quietly. Full spread, staggered timing by 2 seconds per battery. Target the lead ship, center mass. Firing solutions confirmed, Okonkwo said. The timer hit 0. The Defiant shuddered as the first railgun battery discharged. The tungsten carbide slug accelerated down the magnetic corridor, leaving the barrel at nearly 9,000 kilometers per second, roughly 3% of light speed. 2 seconds later, the second battery fired. Then the third, fourth, fifth, and sixth. 6 slugs, each carrying kinetic energy equivalent to a small nuclear weapon, crossed the distance to the lead Vraxian ship in under 3 seconds. The Vraxian shields lit up brilliantly as they detected incoming threats. Energy fields designed to disperse and deflect plasma bolts and particle beams sprang to full power. For energy weapons, those shields were nearly impenetrable. For solid matter traveling at 3% of light speed, they might as well have been made of tissue paper. The first slug hit the shield and punched through it like it wasn't there. The energy field, optimized for dispersing heat and electromagnetic radiation, had no mechanism to slow or stop solid kinetic energy. The slug continued through the shield without losing any appreciable velocity and struck the Vraxian ship's hull. The impact released all that kinetic energy in an instant. The hull vaporized. The slug continued through the ship, creating a perfectly circular tunnel that glowed white-hot. It exited the far side and continued into space, taking with it a spray of molten metal and atmosphere. 2 seconds later, the second slug hit, slightly offset from the first. Then the third, fourth, fifth, and sixth. Each impact created a new catastrophic wound. The lead Vraxian ship, designed to withstand hours of plasma bombardment, came apart in less than 2 seconds. Its reactor containment failed, and the resulting explosion lit up the system like a second sun. Targets 2 and 3 are breaking formation, Okonkwo reported, his voice steady despite the shocked looks on faces around the bridge. They're trying to maneuver. Track them. Fire as batteries reload. 4 shots per target. Spread the impact points. The remaining Vraxian ships were scrambling now, their confidence shattered. They tried to bring their plasma cannons to bear, but the Defiant was already moving, using thrusters to present different angles. More railgun shots fired, the magnetic accelerators recharging with brutal efficiency. The second Vraxian ship tried to rotate its strongest shield facing toward the Defiant. It didn't matter. The tungsten carbide slugs punched through shield and hull with equal ease, 4 impacts in rapid succession, and the ship began venting atmosphere from multiple hull breaches. Its engines went dark as the power systems failed. The third ship tried to run. Its pilot must have realized the futility of fighting an enemy their shields couldn't stop. The ship began burning hard for the system's edge where it could safely jump to FTL. Maintain fire, Chen ordered. Don't let it escape. 3 more slugs caught the fleeing ship. 1 struck an engine, sending the ship into an uncontrolled spin. The second and third shots hit center mass, and the ship broke apart, its structural integrity compromised beyond recovery. From first shot to last, the engagement had lasted 4 minutes and 43 seconds. 3 Vraxian warships, representative of a Tier 3 civilization's military might, had been reduced to expanding clouds of debris and frozen atmosphere. The bridge of the Defiant was silent for a long moment. Then Lieutenant Barnes spoke, his voice shaky. "Sir, we're being hailed by the Council observer ship. Put it through." An alien face appeared, one Chen didn't recognize. Some species with large black eyes and smooth gray skin. The translator caught up after a moment. "Captain Chen, this is Observer Talmec of the Galactic Council Monitoring Division. We have recorded the engagement. I must request clarification on your weapon systems. Our sensors detected no energy discharge prior to the destruction of the Vraxian vessels. How did you penetrate their shields?" Chen leaned back in his chair. "Observer Talmec, we used standard kinetic weapons. Railguns, specifically. Tungsten carbide projectiles accelerated to high velocity through magnetic induction. The technology has been in human use for over 2 centuries. But the shields are designed to stop energy weapons." "Precisely," Chen finished. "Your shields are very impressive at dispersing heat and radiation. But kinetic energy, solid matter at high velocity, your shields weren't built to handle that because none of you use kinetic weapons anymore." There was a long pause. The Council was not aware that kinetic weapons could be so effective. "Respectfully, Observer, the Council assumed our weapons were primitive because they were different from yours. That was a mistake." Chen glanced at the debris field that had been the Vraxian ships. "I suggest the Council reconsider its assessment of human military capabilities. The Vraxian Empire will demand sanctions against humanity for this attack," Talmec said, though he sounded uncertain. "The Vraxian Empire violated established interstellar law by threatening a legally established colony," Chen countered. "We defended our citizens. The Defiant has full combat recordings available for Council review. Your own observers witnessed the entire engagement. The Vraxians fired first. Actually, neither side had fired first except the railguns, but Chen was betting the Council would be too shocked by the method of victory to worry about technicalities. We will file a complete report," Talmec said finally. "The Council will review these events, Captain Chen. Humanity's technological classification may need to be reassessed. We look forward to that reassessment," Chen said neutrally. Defiant out. He turned to his crew. "Damage report. 0 damage, sir," Okonkwo reported. "They never got a shot off. Our shields weren't even activated." "Good. Lieutenant Barnes, open a channel to Kelvar Station. Let Governor Mitchell know the threat has been neutralized." While Barnes made the call, Chen pulled up the strategic map of local space. This engagement would change everything. The Council had watched humanity destroy 3 of their member species' warships in less than 5 minutes, using weapons the Council had dismissed as primitive relics. Within days, maybe hours, every species in the Council would know what happened here. They would know that their shields, the defensive technology they had relied on for thousands of years, were useless against human weapons. They would know that humanity, ranked as a lowly Tier 7 civilization, had just demonstrated the ability to destroy Tier 3 warships with contemptuous ease. Some would be frightened, some would be angry, some would be calculating, wondering what other assumptions about human capabilities were wrong, and some, Chen knew, would decide that humanity needed to be put down before they became a real threat. The Vraxian Empire wouldn't take this loss quietly. Other species might decide to strike preemptively. "Sir, message from Ambassador Vasquez at the Council Station," Barnes said. "Encrypted, highest priority." Chen opened it on his personal screen. Vasquez's message was brief. "Well done. Come home. We need to prepare for what happens next." Chen nodded to himself. What happened next would determine humanity's future in the galaxy. They had shown they could fight. Now they would see if they could survive the storm that fight had unleashed. 6 weeks after the Kelvar incident, Ambassador Elena Vasquez stood in the newly constructed diplomatic facility on Luna, Earth's moon. Humanity had insisted on hosting the emergency council session on their own territory. After Kelvar, the council had agreed, though Elena knew it was more from caution than respect. They wanted to see Earth's defenses firsthand, to understand what they were really dealing with. Through the reinforced windows, she could see Earth hanging in the black void, half in shadow, half illuminated. Somewhere down there, 8 billion people were watching and waiting to see if this meeting would bring peace or war. The Council had sent an ultimatum 3 days ago: surrender all kinetic weapons and submit to Tier 8 classification, one step above pre-spaceflight primitives, or face a full enforcement action. Humanity's response had been 2 words: come and force us. Now 30 warships from 5 different Council species were approaching the solar system, carrying troops and weapons meant to force compliance. The Council believed it was bringing overwhelming force. Elena knew better. "Ambassador, the Council representatives are arriving," James announced. He looked tired. They all did. The past 6 weeks had been a frantic scramble of diplomatic communications, military preparations, and strategic planning. "How many came in person?" Elena asked. 7, including Overlord Zexthar. The rest are attending via hologram from their home worlds. 7. That meant 7 species were confident enough to send their representatives into what might become a war zone, or arrogant enough. Elena wasn't sure which. The Council members entered the conference room in a procession. Zexthar led them, his scaled hide looking darker than Elena remembered. His eyes, those vertical slits, fixed on her with what might have been anger or calculation. The others followed. The insectoid representative she had seen before, a floating gelatinous creature in its environmental suit, a being that looked like animated crystal, and 3 others of various forms. "Ambassador Vasquez," Zexthar said without preamble, "we have come to witness humanity's compliance with Council requirements. Our enforcement fleet is 6 hours from Earth orbit. You have that long to signal your ships to stand down and begin the process of weapons surrender." Elena gestured to the seats around the large oval table. "Please sit. We have much to discuss." "There is nothing to discuss," Zexthar said, but he sat anyway. The others followed, some in chairs, some on specialized platforms. "The Council has made its decision. You violated established protocols by destroying Vraxian vessels with unauthorized weapons. You have been reclassified as a dangerous species requiring immediate containment." "The Vraxian vessels were destroyed in self-defense after they threatened a legal human colony," Elena replied calmly. "Your own observers confirmed this. The method of destruction is the issue," the insectoid representative said, its translator rendering its clicking mandibles into precise English. "Kinetic weapons of that power are prohibited under Council law for species below Tier 4. You knew this and used them anyway." "We knew that the Council preferred energy weapons," Elena corrected. "We were never informed that our existing weapons were prohibited. And even if we had been, we would not have complied. Humanity does not surrender its means of self-defense on anyone's order." The crystal being chimed, and its words came through as pure musical tones that the translator converted. "You speak of self-defense, yet your weapons destroyed shielded warships in minutes. This is not defense. This is aggression using exploitative technology." Elena pulled up a holographic display showing the Kelvar engagement from multiple angles. "Let me show you what happened at Kelvar. The Vraxian ships came to forcibly remove our colonists from legally claimed territory. Captain Chen gave them 1 hour to withdraw. They refused. They believed their shields made them invincible." She paused the recording at the moment the first railgun slug pierced the Vraxian shield. "Because you exploited a weakness you knew existed," Zexthar hissed. "Your ships were designed specifically to counter energy shielding. This is aggressive military planning." "Our ships were designed to survive," Elena said. "We didn't know we would encounter energy shields. We didn't know the galaxy used them almost exclusively. We simply built weapons that worked for us, and armor that could withstand what we could build. That's called engineering, not aggression." "The intent is clear," Zexthar insisted. "You saw an opportunity to dominate through unconventional means. The Council cannot allow." A tone interrupted him. James appeared at Elena's shoulder. "Ambassador, the enforcement fleet has entered the outer solar system. They're broadcasting a demand for immediate surrender." "Put it through," Elena said. A new face appeared on the holographic display, this one belonging to a species Elena hadn't seen before. 4 eyes arranged in a square pattern, skin that looked like smooth stone. The translator identified him as Fleet Commander Korvax of the Solthan Navy. "Attention, human forces. This is Fleet Commander Korvax, commanding the Council Enforcement Fleet. We are approaching Earth with 30 warships representing 5 member species. You are ordered to deactivate all defensive systems and prepare for inspection. Any resistance will be met with immediate and overwhelming force. You have 1 hour to comply." Elena looked at Zexthar. "Is this how the Council operates? Threatening peaceful species with overwhelming force? You are not peaceful," Zexthar said flatly. "You are dangerous. The fleet will ensure compliance for the safety of all Council members." "I see." Elena stood and walked to the window, looking out at Earth. "James, open a channel to the fleet. Let me speak to Commander Korvax directly." A moment later, Korvax's face appeared on a smaller display. "I am Ambassador Vasquez, humanity's representative to the Galactic Council. Your fleet is currently in violation of Sol system sovereignty. I'm ordering you to withdraw immediately." Korvax's 4 eyes all focused on her with what might have been amusement. "Ambassador, We have 30 warships. Your entire fleet consists of perhaps 15 vessels total. Your military capabilities are well documented. Stand down. Commander, our military capabilities are clearly not as well documented as you believe, but I'll give you one chance. Turn your fleet around, leave this system, and we can resolve this diplomatically. You have 1 hour. You have 1 hour, Korvax repeated, and cut the connection. Elena turned back to the council representatives. You've made a mistake. Several mistakes, actually. Your first mistake was assuming that the Kelvar incident was a fluke. Your second was bringing a fleet into our home system. And your third, most critical mistake was giving us 50 years to prepare for this moment. Prepare. The insectoid representative's mandibles clicked rapidly. You have barely a dozen warships. How? James, Elena interrupted. Activate the grid. Throughout the solar system, hidden installations came online. Hundreds of platforms that had been disguised as mining stations, research outposts, and commercial satellites suddenly broadcast their real nature. Railgun batteries, each one larger than those mounted on the Defiant. Missile pods containing thousands of kinetic kill vehicles. Point defense networks that could track and target objects moving at relativistic speeds. On Luna alone, 23 hidden fortresses revealed themselves, their weapon systems spinning up to full power. Mars had 16. The asteroid belt contained over 100. Even the moons of Jupiter and Saturn held defensive installations. The holographic display updated to show the tactical situation. The 30 council ships were surrounded by weapons platforms that outnumbered them 10 to 1, and every single weapon was kinetic-based, designed to punch through energy shields like they didn't exist. Zaxthar rose from his seat, his scales shifting color rapidly. The council monitors all military construction. We would have detected this. You monitored what you understood, Elena said. You looked for ships, for energy signatures, for exotic matter weapons. You didn't look for simple railgun platforms because you thought kinetic weapons were primitive. We built our defense grid over 40 years, piece by piece, disguised as civilian infrastructure. Every mining operation, every research station, every commercial satellite was chosen for its strategic positioning. You planned to betray the council from the beginning, the crystal being accused. We planned to defend ourselves, Elena corrected. After we sent messages for 50 years and were ignored, we decided to assume the worst, that when we finally did make contact, the galaxy might not be friendly. So we prepared. Commander Korvax is attempting to hail us, James reported. Put him through. Korvax's face appeared, and his expression had changed dramatically. 4 eyes that had shown amusement now showed shock. Ambassador, we are detecting multiple weapons platforms, hundreds of them. This was not in our intelligence reports. Your intelligence was incomplete, Elena said, and your shields won't stop what we're about to fire. Ask the Vraxians how well that worked out. You have 30 minutes to withdraw your fleet from this system. If you're still here after that, we will interpret it as a hostile act and respond accordingly. You cannot threaten a council enforcement fleet, Korvax sputtered. This is an act of war against the entire council. No, Commander. Your fleet entering our system without permission was an act of war. We're simply defending our home. 30 minutes. Elena out. The connection cut. Elena turned back to the council representatives, who were all standing now, some of them moving toward the door. You cannot do this, Zaxthar said, but his voice had lost its earlier confidence. The council will not accept. The council will accept whatever reality we present them with, Elena interrupted. You came here expecting to find a weak, primitive species you could bully into submission. Instead, you found a species that spent half a century preparing for exactly this scenario. Now you have a choice. You can order that fleet to withdraw, or you can watch it get destroyed. Either way, humanity will not surrender our weapons. We could bring more ships, the insectoid said. Hundreds of them. Thousands. You could, Elena agreed. And we would destroy them too. Our weapons work, council member. They work very well. And unlike your energy shields and plasma weapons, we can manufacture kinetic weapons cheaply and quickly. How many ships are you willing to lose to prove a point? The room fell silent except for the various breathing sounds of different species. The holographic display showed the council fleet beginning to maneuver, trying to position themselves for optimal shield coverage. It wouldn't help them, but Elena understood the psychological need to do something. Ambassador, James said quietly, we're being hailed by Earth Defense Command. Admiral Oteno requests permission to fire a warning shot. Elena considered it. A warning shot would prove humanity's capabilities without causing casualties. It might save lives if it convinced the council fleet to withdraw. Approved. 1 warning shot. Target the lead vessel's forward shield with a single railgun round. Low power, just enough to demonstrate penetration. On the display, one of Luna's orbital platforms rotated to face the council fleet. A single tungsten carbide slug accelerated toward the lead ship, moving at only 1% of light speed, far below the weapon's maximum capability. The slug crossed the distance in seconds. The Sultan warship's shields lit up brilliantly, energy fields at maximum power. The slug passed through like the shield wasn't there, and struck the armored hull with a bright flash. It didn't penetrate the hull completely at that reduced velocity, but the impact created a crater 10 meters across in the ship's forward armor. James, open a channel to the fleet, all ships. When James nodded, Elena spoke clearly. Council Enforcement Fleet, this is Ambassador Vasquez. That was a single railgun round at approximately 1/3 combat power. It penetrated your shields without slowing down. We have 437 platforms in this system, each carrying multiple weapons. If you remain in this system, we will fire at full combat power. Your shields will not protect you. Your armor will not save you. This is not a threat. This is mathematics and physics. You have 25 minutes to reach the system's edge and jump to FTL. I suggest you start moving now. She cut the connection and looked at Zafthar. Order them to withdraw. There's been enough posturing. No one needs to die today. Zafthar's scales had gone almost black. The Council will never accept this humiliation. The Council will accept whatever reality exists, Elena said firmly. We didn't ask for this confrontation. You brought it here. We're simply not rolling over because you expected us to. Now order that fleet to withdraw, or explain to your government why you let 30 ships get destroyed because you were too proud to back down. Then slowly he pulled out a communication device. This is Overlord Zafthar to Fleet Commander Korvax. Withdraw all vessels from the Sol system immediately. Disengage and return to Council space. Overlord. Korvax's voice was confused. But the mission is over. Zafthar finished. Withdraw now. That is a direct order from the Council. On the tactical display, the Council fleet began to turn, moving back toward the outer system. They would need 30 minutes to reach safe jump distance, but they were moving away. No more shots would be fired today. Elena felt tension drain from her shoulders. Thank you, Overlord. That was the right decision. Do not misunderstand, Zafthar said coldly. This changes nothing. The Council will reassess, reconsider, and respond. You have won this engagement, but you cannot win against the entire galaxy. We don't want to fight the entire galaxy, Elena said. We just want respect, equal treatment, the right to defend ourselves without asking permission. Give us that and we have no quarrel with anyone. Respect must be earned. We just earned it, Elena replied. You came here with 30 warships planning to force our surrender. You're leaving with 30 warships because we allowed it. We could have destroyed that fleet. We chose not to. That's not the action of an aggressive species. That's restraint. That's mercy. If you can't respect our capabilities, at least respect our restraint. The Council representatives left shortly after, escorted back to their ships in silence. When they were gone, James slumped into a chair. We did it. We actually did it. We survived, Elena corrected. That's all. The Council won't forget this. Some species will want revenge. Others will want to understand how we did it. And some, she paused, thinking, some will realize that the Council's authority isn't as absolute as everyone thought. That's going to have consequences. What kind of consequences? Elena looked out at Earth again, at the planet that had spent 50 years preparing for a moment like this. The kind that change everything. The Council has ruled through assumed superiority for thousands of years. We just proved that superiority is an illusion. Other species will notice. Some will be inspired. The galaxy just got a lot more interesting. She pulled up a communication screen. Get me Admiral Oteno. We need to keep the defense grid active for now. And contact Ambassador Hayes on the Council station. Tell her to start reaching out to smaller species, ones who might be tired of Council restrictions. If the Council won't give us equal treatment, we'll build our own alliance. An alliance of lower-tier species, James asked. An alliance of species who believe in self-determination, Elena corrected. The Council's hierarchy is based on when species developed certain technologies, not on actual capability or wisdom. There are probably dozens of species ranked below their actual abilities, just like us. Let's find them. As James began making calls, Elena watched the Council fleet disappear toward the outer system. Zexthar was right about one thing. This changed nothing in terms of Council policy, but it changed everything in terms of what was possible. Humanity had just told the galaxy's ruling government no, and made it stick. That simple act of defiance would echo across 1,000 worlds. The question now was whether it would inspire rebellion or unite the Council against them. Either way, humanity would be ready. They had spent 50 years preparing for first contact. Now they would spend however long it took preparing for what came next. 6 months had passed since the Council Enforcement Fleet withdrew from Sol system. An uneasy peace held across the galaxy, maintained less by treaties and more by mutual uncertainty. The Council had lost face, and everyone knew it. Smaller species were asking uncomfortable questions. Why should the Council dictate what weapons they could use? Why should ancient species determine the fate of newer ones? Humanity had spent those 6 months quietly building alliances. 12 species had formally requested diplomatic relations with Earth. Most of them ranked Tier 5 or below by the Council's classification. Ambassador Vasquez had personally visited each one, establishing trade agreements and mutual defense pacts. The Council watched with growing alarm but took no action, until the Soltians decided to act. Dr. Sarah Kim stood in the quantum research facility beneath Tokyo, reviewing data streams with growing concern. The facility had been built to study exotic physics, but for the past year its real purpose had been detecting quantum entanglement signatures, the telltale sign of teleportation technology. And right now, every sensor in the facility was screaming warnings. "Director Kim, we have multiple quantum spikes," her assistant, Dr. Yuki Tanaka, called out from his station. "Thousands of them, all synchronized. They're forming a pattern consistent with coordinate-locked transportation." Sarah's blood went cold. Locations? Everywhere. Every major city on Earth. New York, London, Beijing, Mumbai, Sao Paulo, Lagos, Moscow. "Director, there are quantum signatures forming inside population centers worldwide." Sarah grabbed her communicator. "This is Director Kim at Tokyo facility. I need immediate connection to Earth Defense Command. Code Omega, we have incoming teleportation attacks." The response was immediate. Admiral Oteno's face appeared on her screen, already tense. "Director Kim, we're seeing it too. Every defense grid sensor is lighting up. What are we looking at?" "Teleportation bombs," Sarah said, pulling up her analysis. "Someone is quantum entangling explosive devices to coordinates inside our cities. Based on the signature patterns, I'd estimate we have maybe 90 seconds before materialization completes. Can we stop it? Not with conventional methods. The objects are still in quantum flux. They haven't fully materialized yet, so we can't shoot them. But," Sarah pulled up a different display, one showing theoretical calculations her team had been working on for months. "We might be able to redirect them." "Redirect? The teleportation process uses quantum entanglement to link 2 points in space, but during the materialization phase, the quantum state is unstable. If we can disrupt the entanglement field with precisely calibrated interference, we can theoretically alter the arrival coordinates." Oteno stared at her. "You're saying we can change where these bombs appear?" "In theory. We've never tested it at this scale. But Admiral, we built Project Lockdown for exactly this scenario. Every major city has quantum disruptors installed in the emergency systems. If we activate them now, we might be able to redirect the bombs away from civilian areas." "Might? It's either try this or evacuate 8 billion people in 90 seconds. Oteno made the decision in a heartbeat. "Do it. Authorization code Oteno77 Alpha. Activate all Project Lockdown facilities globally. And pray this works." Director Sarah turned to her team. "Activate all disruptors. Full power. Target every quantum signature in the system." Throughout Earth, hidden quantum disruptor arrays came online. They had been installed over the past 6 months as part of humanity's crash program to understand and counter teleportation technology. The Council species had used quantum transportation for thousands of years, but they had never weaponized it like this, probably because they had never needed to. Most species had energy shields that could contain explosions. Humanity didn't, so they had to find another way. The quantum disruptors sent out carefully calibrated interference patterns, reaching into the quantum foam of space-time itself. Each bomb was locked in a superposition state, simultaneously at its origin point and destination point, until the quantum wave function collapsed. The disruptors forced premature collapse, but with modified entanglement coordinates. On Sarah's display, she watched as thousands of quantum signatures shifted. Bombs that had been materializing above New York suddenly appeared in the upper atmosphere, devices forming in Beijing relocated to the Pacific Ocean. Every major population center's incoming attacks were redirected to safe zones, upper atmosphere, deep ocean, remote areas. The timing wasn't perfect. 3 bombs materialized before the disruptors could redirect them. One appeared in a warehouse in Lagos, another formed on a rural road in Argentina. The third materialized in an empty office building in Sydney that had been evacuated for renovations. All 3 detonated, but the casualties were minimal compared to what would have happened if thousands of bombs had appeared in city centers simultaneously. "It worked," Dr. Tanaka said, his voice shaking. "It actually worked. We redirected them. Not all of them," Sarah said, looking at the casualty reports coming in. 23 dead in Lagos, 7 in Argentina. The Sydney bomb had killed no one. But enough. "Who sent these?" Admiral Oteno's voice came through the communicator, hard and cold. "Intelligence identified the quantum signatures. They matched Soltian technology. This was a Soltian collective attack. The Soltian collective was a Tier 2 civilization, one of the most advanced in the galaxy. They had mastered quantum teleportation technology millennia ago and used it as the foundation of their entire civilization. Teleportation weapons were their specialty, their way of bypassing any conventional defense, except humanity had just proven those defenses weren't so conventional. "Admiral, I'm detecting something else," Sarah said, pulling up new data. "The quantum disruption we used to redirect the bombs, it's created a detailed map of the Soltian teleportation network. Every relay station, every quantum anchor point, I can see their entire infrastructure. Can we use it?" Sarah looked at the data, her mind racing through possibilities. "More than that, we can weaponize it. Admiral, our ships have been equipped with experimental teleporters for 3 months now. Short range only, untested in combat, but if we know where their network anchor points are," she didn't need to finish. Oteno understood immediately. "We can teleport our ships past their defenses. Director Kim, send me everything you have on their network, every coordinate, every relay point, and keep those disruptors active. If they try another attack, I want us ready. Understood. Transmitting data now. 20 minutes later, the UNS Defiant and 9 other human warships activated their quantum teleportation systems. The technology was crude by Soltian standards, only capable of short jumps, and it consumed enormous amounts of power, but it worked. One moment, the human fleet was in orbit around Mars, accelerating toward the outer system. The next moment, they materialized inside Soltian space, specifically at the coordinates Sarah's scans had identified as major military installations. Captain Marcus Chen stood on the bridge of the Defiant, watching as reality snapped back into focus around them. They were inside a Soltian military sphere, surrounded by defensive stations and warships. The Soltians had seconds to react, and those seconds were far too few. All ships, weapons free, Chen ordered. Railgun batteries, full spread. Target defensive stations first, then capital ships. The human fleet opened fire at point-blank range. Tungsten carbide slugs tore through Soltian shields and hulls with the same brutal efficiency they had shown against the Vraxians. Defensive stations that had stood for centuries came apart in seconds. Warships designed to teleport strike forces across the galaxy died before they could charge their weapons. The Soltians tried to respond. Plasma cannons fired. Particle beams lashed out. A few teleportation weapons managed to activate. But the human ships had been positioned based on Sarah's network analysis. They knew exactly where the Soltian weapons would try to teleport ordnance, and they had quantum disruptors running at full power. Every teleportation attack got redirected into empty space. Second wave. Prepare to jump, Chen ordered. Target the coordinates Director Kim provided. Weapons production facilities. The human ships vanished and reappeared above 4 different Soltian worlds, materializing directly above industrial complexes that produced their most advanced weapons. Kinetic bombardment from orbit, precise and devastating. The facilities burned. A third jump brought them to Soltian relay stations, the quantum anchor points that allowed their civilization-wide teleportation network to function. More railgun fire, more destruction. The Soltians were scrambling now, trying to organize a defense, but human ships kept appearing in unexpected locations, striking hard and jumping away before retaliation was possible. Admiral Oteno is ordering fleet-wide withdrawal, the communications officer reported. All ships to return to Sol system. Chen nodded. Helm, plot a jump back to Mars orbit. Execute on my mark. He looked at the tactical display one last time, at the burning installations and crippled ships. Mark. The Defiant and its sister ships vanished, leaving the Soltians to assess the damage. The entire engagement had lasted 37 minutes from first shot to final withdrawal. Back on Earth, in the Tokyo facility, Sarah watched the fleet return on her displays. The data from the engagement was already flowing in, and what she saw made her breath catch. Director, Dr. Tanaka said, the quantum disruptors didn't just redirect their attacks. The feedback from the Soltian network, we learned how their entire teleportation system works. Every protocol, every quantum encryption key. Director, we can access their network. We can go anywhere they can go. Sarah pulled up the data, verifying what Tanaka was saying. He was right. The Soltians had used quantum entanglement as their ultimate advantage for thousands of years. And in one afternoon, humanity had not only countered that advantage, but stolen it. Get this to Earth Defense Command immediately, Sarah ordered. And prepare a full analysis. We need to understand every aspect of this system. Ambassador Elena Vasquez received the news 3 hours later in her office on the council station. She had chosen to remain there, monitoring council reactions to events. Now, looking at the reports from Earth and the Soltian engagement, she understood that everything had changed again. The door to her office opened without her permission. Overlord Zilothar entered, his scales showing colors she had never seen before. Dark purples and blacks that her research suggested meant extreme distress in his species. You attacked the Soltians, he said without preamble. A Tier 2 civilization. You destroyed military installations across their empire. They attacked us first, Elena replied calmly. They tried to detonate thousands of bombs in our cities. We defended ourselves and retaliated against their military infrastructure. We left their civilian populations untouched. You use teleportation technology. You, a Tier 7 species that supposedly lacks any advanced quantum capabilities, somehow not only detected their attack but countered it and used it against them. We learned quickly, Elena said. We've had 6 months to study the quantum mechanics behind teleportation. And when the Soltians were kind enough to demonstrate their network architecture by trying to murder our civilians, we took advantage of that knowledge. Zexthar moved to the window, looking out at the stars. The council is fragmenting. 12 species have formally withdrawn their membership in the past 3 hours. 40 more are threatening to do so. They say that if the council cannot protect them from humanity, and if humanity can defeat Tier 2 civilizations, then the entire tier system is meaningless. The tier system was always meaningless, Elena said. It measured when species developed technologies, not how well they used them. It assumed development followed a single path. Humanity proved that assumption wrong. What do you want? Zexthar asked suddenly. You have demonstrated your military capability twice now. You have humiliated the Council's authority. You have stolen Soltian quantum technology. What is your endgame? Helena stood and walked to stand beside him at the window. We want what we have always wanted. Equal treatment. The right to develop our own technologies without arbitrary restrictions. The freedom to explore and colonize without asking permission. We want to be part of a galactic community built on mutual respect, not a hierarchy enforced by ancient civilizations that haven't innovated in millennia. And if the Council cannot provide this, then the Council's authority is over, Elena said simply. Not because we destroyed it, but because it destroyed itself by refusing to adapt. We're not trying to rule the galaxy, Zexthar. We're just refusing to be ruled by an unjust system. Zexthar was silent for a long moment. Finally he spoke, his voice quieter than Elena had ever heard it. The Council will meet in 3 days. An emergency session. Many species are demanding humanity be declared a rogue civilization and eliminated as a threat. Others are arguing that humanity should be granted Tier 1 status immediately. Still others say the entire tier system should be abolished. What do you think should happen? Elena asked. I think, Zexthar said slowly, that my civilization spent 4,000 years assuming we understood how the galaxy worked. We thought we had reached the pinnacle of development. We looked down on younger species as children who needed guidance, and now one of those younger species has destroyed our certainty in the span of 1 year. He turned to face her. I think we were wrong, and I think the galaxy must change because of it. Will you support that change? I will present the reality to the Council. What they do with that reality is beyond my control. But Ambassador Vasquez, understand this. There are species in the Council who will never accept this change. They will fight. They will bring everything they have against humanity. Are you prepared for that? Elena looked out at the stars, thinking of Earth, of the 8 billion people who had survived today because of technology the Council had dismissed as impossible for a Tier 7 species. She thought of the other younger species, ones still under the Council's thumb who were watching and learning. We've been preparing since the day we looked up at the stars and decided we weren't alone, she said. Whatever comes next, we'll face it. But we won't face it alone anymore. 1 year after the Soltian incident, the galaxy looked nothing like it had before humanity made first contact. The Galactic Council, which had ruled for 12,000 years, had dissolved in a cascade of withdrawals, defections, and internal conflicts. The grand station where it had once met now sat empty, a monument to assumptions that no longer held. Ambassador Elena Vasquez stood in a different station now, one that humanity had built in cooperation with 40 other species. It was smaller than the old Council station, more functional, less grandiose. The Federation station, they called it, orbiting a yellow star in neutral space that no species claimed as their own. Today marked the 1-year anniversary of the Federation's founding, and representatives from 83 species had come to attend. Elena looked out at the assembly hall, so different from the Council chamber she remembered. There were no ascending rings of seats here, no hierarchy of placement, just a circular arrangement where every species sat at the same level. Tier designations had been abolished. There were no rankings, no restrictions, only a simple charter, mutual respect, self-determination, and collective defense. Quite a crowd, Ambassador Hayes said, joining Elena at the observation window. Hayes had been humanity's representative to the Council before its dissolution. Now she served as humanity's Federation secretary, managing the day-to-day operations of the new organization. 83 species, Elena said. Last month it was 76. The month before 68. We're growing. So is the Remnant, Hayes warned. The Remnant was what they called the die-hard Council loyalists, who refused to accept the new order. Roughly 30 species, mostly the oldest and most technologically advanced, who had retreated to their core territories and declared the Federation illegal. Intelligence reports they're building something. A new fleet, much larger than anything they fielded before. How long until it's operational? 6 months, maybe 8. They're being smart about it this time. No assumptions about human capabilities. They're designing specifically to counter kinetic weapons and quantum disruptors. Elena nodded. She had expected this. The Remnant couldn't accept that their authority was gone. They would try to reclaim it by force, and this time, they would be prepared. Have we shared this intelligence with the other Federation members? Full briefing scheduled for tomorrow. But Elena, some of our newer members are getting nervous. They joined the Federation because we defeated the Council twice. Now they're hearing the Remnant is building a fleet specifically to defeat us. Questions are being asked about whether we can actually protect them. Can we? Hayes smiled slightly. You should ask Admiral Chen. He's been preparing for this since the day the Council dissolved. The Federation Assembly met the next day, with all 83 member species represented. Elena stood at the central podium, no longer as a mere ambassador but as Secretary General, elected by unanimous vote 6 months earlier. She looked out at the faces, and variations of faces, watching her. Members of the Federation, she began, we gathered today to address a growing threat. The species who remain loyal to the old Council, who we call the Remnant, are preparing for war. Intelligence from multiple sources confirms they are building a massive fleet designed specifically to defeat Federation forces and restore Council authority across the galaxy. Murmurs spread through the assembly. A representative from the Kilovar, a species of crystalline beings, spoke up. Secretary General, when we joined the Federation, we did so believing humanity's military innovations gave us protection from Council aggression, but the Remnant has studied your tactics. They are adapting. What assurance can you provide that the Federation can withstand their assault? It was a fair question, and Elena had expected it. I cannot provide absolute assurance. No one can promise certain victory in war. What I can tell you is that humanity has not been idle this past year. Neither have many of you. We have shared technologies, refined tactics, and built capabilities that didn't exist when the Council fell. She activated a holographic display showing the Federation's current military assets. 1 year ago, the human fleet consisted of 18 warships. Today, the Federation fleet includes 73 ships from 12 different species, all equipped with kinetic weapons, quantum disruptors, and shared technology. We have defense grids protecting every member world, and we have something the old Council never had: cooperation born of choice, not coercion. An insectoid representative from the Vraxians spoke next. Yes, the Vraxians, after their defeat at Kelvar, they had been among the first to approach humanity about an alliance. Secretary General, my species learned firsthand the effectiveness of human weapons, but we also learned that adaptation is possible. If we could learn from our defeat, so too can the Remnant. What new capabilities has humanity developed? Elena glanced at Captain Chen, who stood near the edge of the assembly. He gave a slight nod, and Elena continued. We have been working on several projects. Project Cascade involves layered point defense systems that can intercept thousands of targets simultaneously. Project Hammer extends railgun range and velocity beyond what we thought possible. And Project Mirror, she paused. Project Mirror is something we're not ready to fully disclose, but it involves turning the Remnant's own technology against them in ways they won't anticipate. Secrecy. The Kilovar representative's crystalline structure pulsed with colors that Elena's translator interpreted as concern. The Federation was founded on transparency, and we maintain that transparency among ourselves, Elena agreed. But we would be fools to broadcast our full capabilities to the Remnant. When the time comes, when they make their move, you will see what we have prepared. Until then, I ask for trust. We have never failed you. We won't start now. The Assembly debated for hours, but ultimately they voted to support continued military preparations. Some species pledged additional ships. Others offered technological contributions. The Vraxians, surprisingly, offered to share their own energy shield technology, modified to work in conjunction with human kinetic weapons rather than against them. 3 months later, the Remnant made their move.